What up? It's the Ringer NBA show. Our Beck, senior writer for The Ringer, Michael Pina from The Ringer, coming to you live from the beautiful Spotify studios in Lower Manhattan. Michael, we're here today to talk about the NBA, which, as I understand it, is something we can still discuss publicly without fear of retribution or anything else. So the NBA, still good under the guise of the Ringer NBA show.
Howard, we'll see after I get my Clippers takes off if that's your statement still holds, but continue.
I mean, we will be taking some risks. We are going to talk today about, with training camp just days away, which is hard to believe, by the way. This is the teams that are going overseas. We're 5 days away, as we record on Thursday, from training camps, and everybody else a week after that. We have questions just broadly, not about training camp in general, but we have some questions heading into training camps in the NBA season. We will cover that. But before that, you have been off of the microphone for a bit. You had a big move. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How's the unpacking coming?
It's ongoing. It's hellacious.
It's the worst thing you can do.
It's
the worst thing you can do in life is to move. No one should ever move. It's terrible. Glad you survived it so far. But I did an insane number of hours of Kawhi talk last week between Zach's pod and group chat. I have fired off, I think, every Kawhi Clippers take I possibly have by now. I have a few other thoughts, but you have been moving / one eye on this story, I think. Anything that has struck you along the way here? We had new revelations from Pablo Torre and his crew this morning. Where are you at on Kawhi Gate?
I mean, for those who have been following my writing for the past however many years know that I am a sad, tragic Clippers apologist. This has been a tough time for me personally. And I kind of have come out on the side that this is all a vast conspiracy to distract from the fact that the Clippers are going to win the NBA championship this season.
And there we go. We've just been canceled.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's been
Hope
wonderful.
Everybody listened. Enjoyed yourself. No, seriously, I kind of just think that they're in a lot of trouble, and we'll see how the investigation goes. And I'm remain fascinated by the basketball team and how this impacts the basketball team, which I think will still be very good. Unless Kawhi's contract is voided and he can't play for them this season, then I'll change my tune. But no, this is just a huge story, a fascinating story, and one that will have ripple effects for quite some time throughout the league, I think.
It probably will. It should. I'm still getting from, and as recently as yesterday, talked to another longtime team exec type, and he's not the first one to say this, but there is still an undercurrent of people in the league who are like, nothing's going to come of this. Like, nothing's going to happen. And there are various reasons and rationales for why some people believe that. This is a very cynical league, and I think, especially at the team level, people are either at one extreme or the other, which is either they have to throw the book at them, and I think they will. Like, there's no way they can get away with this. There's just no way they can. And then the other extreme is, no, they shouldn't probably get away with any of this. This is alarming, but nothing's going to come of it for various reasons, whether it's because the league likes Ballmer and values him too much as an owner, or because of his wealth and his power, or just, hey, it's easy to run off, relatively speaking, a Donald Sterling or a Robert Sarver, but you can't do that with an owner that everybody actually likes and values and has reinvigorated a big market franchise that was never invigorated to begin with. I don't know if you can reinvigorate. So he has a different value. Also, by the way, just to be clear, I don't think anybody believes that he would be run off under whatever the worst case scenario is in terms of discipline. I don't think it's going to involve Ballmer not owning the team, but even just having to penalize his team is something that I think some people in the league feel like is a step they don't think the NBA will take out of deference to him. I think that's a little oversimplified. I think it's a little too cynical for my taste. I'm just saying that is a view that is held by some.
Yeah, I think we'll see how much evidence, or circumstantial evidence comes out. There's been quite a bit of it. It doesn't look good. And if you do not punish or, put legitimate consequence on these actions that are allegedly taken place based on everything that we've seen with Pablo's podcast, then I think it sends a dangerous precedent
Yes.
Because who's going to stop the next team from doing what the Clippers have potentially done in terms of circumventing the salary cap and undermining the collective bargaining agreement, which is a big deal?
Yeah. It is, and it's why I still believe that whatever the NBA finds, whether there is a so-called smoking gun or not, whether there's a text that directly lays out or an email that directly lays out the if-then of it all, then it's unavoidable at a certain point. If it remains where it is right now, which is a heaping of circumstantial evidence, it may be circumstantial, but it is like very compelling. It's a harder thing for the NBA to adjudicate because where's the bar? And only Adam Silver and his team can decide that. So I don't know. I will say this: you have been the eternal Clipper optimist. I can't possibly. I can't compete with it. I have never, on the competitive side of it, shared your optimism year to year. But you will recall.
Smart man.
You will. Let's not declare that too soon. You will recall that I have been on my own little Clipper island of. I think that the mere act of acquiring Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in tandem in July of 2019 was a win in itself, a win that supersedes anything that came after in a lot of ways, symbolically and also, and I think even practically, because up until that point, the best thing that had happened to the Clippers was Donald Sterling got forced out. Steve Ballmer bought them. Oh, and then Lob City also happened somewhere along the way. That was cool. That was fun. The Clippers were legit for a while, and they had some real stars. But it wasn't until Kawhi and Paul George in tandem chose them, as I have made the case over the years, that they became like a legitimate, big market, attractive destination kind of team. And that even if they never won a championship, even if they never made the finals, even if they only won 3 playoff series during that time, it's still a win in that we would never see them the same way again. The image of them changed, like this brand new sparkling arena. Yeah. They're finally out from under the Lakers and the LA Kings or whatever in Staples Center. They've got their own place. From what I gather or what I've heard, I've not seen it. Apparently their new practice facility is absolutely spectacular. Somebody the other day told me it's the best one in the league. And so all of that came in the wake of getting Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Like, this was a huge moment for them. And up until now, I've thought nothing can change that. Except now I'm kind of wondering if maybe this changes that. And I wonder, we are months away, folks. Like, I do not expect anything to happen soon. I think it's going to be months, maybe the end of the season, before we get the Wachtell-Lipton report and a decision by the NBA on what to do about all of this and whatever new evidence comes up. But I am already wondering how this changes how we view Kawhi, especially given how this has all been driven seemingly by Uncle Dennis. How do we view Kawhi? How do we view the Clippers? Does it change any of that? Like, I don't have an answer for that yet, Pina. It's something I'm playing with my own head as somebody who thought this era was a success even by just having these guys choose them. And does this now change how anybody views the Clippers, and especially free agents and their agents view the Clippers in the future? Will people still want them? Maybe they'll want them more for all I know. Hey, look at all the extra perks we can get illegally. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, time will tell with all of that. I don't think that the perception of Kawhi will change all that much because he's just this blank slate and you have your opinions of him. You had them, the proverbial you before all of this, and I doubt this will change anything. I too do as well. I love Kawhi. I still do. I don't think he did anything morally wrong, So, but I have a question for you. Do you think the investigation will resolve itself before the All-Star break? Because no. I think that if more revelations were to come out, if this stuff were to trickle out in season, that sort of thing, I don't necessarily think that it would cause as much of a uproar because we have basketball games and there's a lot of other stuff happening. Right now there's a vacuum to fill. But could that be a little bit of a cloud hanging over All-Star weekend, the fact that Ballmer is hosting it at his new arena? I mean, that's awkward.
I mean,
it's a great word for it.
Saturday of All-Star Weekend is when Adam Silver does his All-Star presser. We're going to be sitting there, all of us gathered media in Los Angeles at the Intuit Dome in some press conference room with Adam up there in Steve Ballmer's building while he's almost certainly still under investigation. No, I don't think it's going to be resolved that quickly. I meant to look up, I have not, but all the previous Wachtell, Lipton investigations, all previous NBA investigations by whichever law firms they've hired over the last 15 years for various matters, they never resolve that quickly. I think the bigger question might be how many different Pablo Torre finds out episodes on the Clippers happen between now and then, and how much evidence piles up outside of that, because there's the stuff that's being done by Pablo and other media outlets, and then there's the report that really matters the most, which is the one that the NBA does, right? Like, we are seeing some version of this, right? We don't have the full picture most likely. The league will have access to things that Pablo does not. Pablo can't subpoena the Clippers' phone and text records and emails and everything. The NBA can demand all of that, and certainly will, through Wachtell Lipton. So, I mean, I don't know. There may be 15 more revelations between now and then on the public record, but the report that matters most is the one the NBA has commissioned, and we just don't know when that's coming. No, I don't think it'll happen by All-Star Weekend. I think the cloud is still hanging there, and it's going to be a really fun time we're going to have in that press conference.
So fast forward to that press conference. Your first question is, Commissioner Silver, your thoughts on how the half-court heave rules have improved the quality of the game, in particular, all the highlights that it has spawned.
Because it's a highlight-driven league.
It's a highlight-driven league. There's a real good connection there, good synergy.
That's phenomenal. I will just say, I'm with Kevin Pelton here. Kevin Pelton on Blue Sky this morning said this, and I feel like this is what I've been thinking too, but shout out to Kevin Pelton for saying it, I think, very well. He's saying this something that's irked him about the overwrought, what he called the overwrought response to the comments about a highlight-driven league. He says it never comes up that the idea of watching national games on a daily basis is a purely modern notion, which is true for those of us who are older, and I think I'm a little older than KP, but he said if you grew up in the 90s, like many of us now covering the NBA did, you didn't fall in love with the league because you watched games every day. You had NBC doubleheaders. Even local broadcasts, as he notes, were not always accessible. He said Sonic's home games were on pay-per-view. He grew up in their market. So you watched highlights on SportsCenter. Can we
bring that era back? That's just better for my mental health personally. I love the NBA so much. Love watching a lot of games. 2, 3 every 24 hours probably for me. I mean, and 2 a week sounds just tremendous.
That's the thing. Like, because we live in an era of League Pass and the ability to if you had time, you could watch all how many games? 1,600. What is the number? Whatever 82 times 41 times 30, whatever that number is. Mathematicians, help me out. You could watch them all if you wanted to, but that is not the norm. That is very much the last 10 years of the NBA. And because we're a little bit spoiled by that, it does bring into play this whole thing of what's behind not paywalls, what's behind subscription models and now streaming and cable and all this versus what's over the air. And where Adam really slipped up was that he should have emphasized how many more over the air games. Opening night, and I can't remember who pointed this out, maybe KP did too. Opening night of the NBA season is going to be on over-the-air TV for the first time in a bajillion years, because it's not on Turner and it's not on ESPN. It's on NBC, and so where Adam stepped in it was that the question was more about affordability and accessibility for the average fan, and as he's trying to talk his way through why it's not as big of a concern, he says, and we're a highlight-driven league, and you can see all of that in a bunch of places, in TikTok and YouTube and all this. Mm-hmm. And he's not wrong. It's just wrong to dismiss the question of affordability and accessibility by veering toward, let them eat cake, let them eat highlights. Like that, I get why people were annoyed by that, but I don't think it's as big a deal as some people made it out.
You promised we wouldn't talk about the highlight-driven mumbo jumbo.
We're done.
Can we get to the training camp questions?
We should.
Okay.
So training camps are opening soon. Our assignment for each other was 5. I think you came up with 4 because
Wow, you ratting me out there. Jeez Louise.
I mean, if the listeners can count. If we get to the end, they're keeping score at home. They're gonna go wow, Beck had 5, 6, and Pina came up. They would know.
That's fair.
You were moving, and you've got 2 little ones at home. It's fine.
Yeah.
Not questions about training camp per se. 5 questions we have about the NBA, teams, players, coaches, schedules, whatever it may be, as we head into the early pieces of the NBA season here, starting with training camp. So I'll throw it to you first. what is your first burning question as camps open up?
Sure. So I wrote about this today on theringer.com. The question that I don't know if it's the number one question I'm most intrigued by, but one that really tickles my fancy right now. When will Lauri Markkanen get traded? And I say when because I feel like, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, this is inevitable that these two parties, the Lauri Markkanen and the Utah Jazz, will separate at some point. It only makes sense. He's 28 years old. The Utah Jazz spent an entire offseason going in reverse after winning a league low 17 games last season. They got rid of John Collins, Colin Sexton for Yusuf Nurkic trade with a second-round pick going out the door to Charlotte that made absolutely no sense. So clearly they
lost Jordan Clarkson, which I know to you, it's like that's a huge blow to them.
Yes, exactly.
I know how much you love Jordan Clarkson.
He is an incredible player. So yeah, I just if you're Lauri Markkanen, someone who 2 years ago made an All-Star team, won Most Improved Player, signed this massive contract that disallowed Utah from, because of when it was signed, he wasn't allowed to be traded last year. Has never appeared in a playoff game in his career. He's probably the best player in the league who can say that right now. But, not including Victor Wembanyama or someone like that. But I just think based on where he is and how frustrated he probably will be as this season goes along on a team that's going nowhere intentionally, he will either privately or publicly request a trade, or, it would just behoove the Utah Jazz to move on and get what they can from him, because I think he is awesome. And there are reasons why trade negotiations could be a little bit difficult, and maybe the Utah Jazz hold off until the offseason when more teams have financial flexibility and that sort of thing. But I would look to trade him now if I was Utah. And there are a few teams around the league that I think should be I think every team should be interested in him, but it's a matter of can you absorb that contract? Do you have the draft assets and young talent trade pieces that will satisfy Utah? And so I think that the Venn diagram there is pretty narrow, but something needs to happen, and I think something will happen.
It's overdue.
Yeah.
It's overdue. Lauri Markkanen has been of no particular use to the Utah Jazz for at least the last couple of years. Ever since you really started to tear this thing down, and he had, he had a great season for them in 2022-23. That's the year he wins Most Improved, makes the All-Star team. But even then, it's pretty clear this is not a guy you're building your franchise around. He's probably best as somebody's co-star.
I think he's an ideal co-star.
Yes.
I think he's a perfect co-star, and so that kind of opens up the door to so many different fascinating trade partners.
He's 28. He's just early prime. In the most optimistic scenario, the Utah Jazz are good again in 3 years? There's not a scenario here, and I think this is why I say it's overdue. We are long past the point where you could talk yourself into, if we tear it down on the fly, but we've got Markkanen as one of our anchor pieces here, and we just start to rebuild around him, we're past that point. You're 3 years in now with him, and you're even further from competing at a respectable level than you were. It's just time. His best value to the Jazz now is as a trade piece. So yeah, where he ultimately lands, you did land somewhere in your piece on theringer.com today. Where did you want to send Lauri Markkanen?
I've thought this for quite some time. I posted on Blue Sky that this was the story I was born to write. I think the Detroit Pistons should trade for Lauri Markkanen.
I like it.
I think it's a perfect, mutually beneficial situation. He is, as I just said, the ideal sidekick, and I think he fits so perfectly with Cade Cunningham. I also think he fits with Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren and whoever, Ron Holland, whoever else they want to keep and are able to keep left over after they make the trade. But just, a 7-footer who can shoot threes, off the move, spotting up, pick and pop. He's an independent shot creator for himself. He can post up, he can isolate, he can take bigs off the dribble. He has great gravity. He loves moving off screens. He's an awesome, malleable player who fits in so many different systems and schemes. And he also has experience with J.B. Bickerstaff, who was his coach in Cleveland and helped kind of turn his career around after he was traded there from the Chicago Bulls. So I think it's a wonderful place for him. I think that the Detroit Pistons are ready to take the next step.
Yeah.
And could have, should have defeated the New York Knicks in round one might say, after watching that series. I think there's a very good team that's ascending. And so, the trade proposal that I wrote in my piece essentially is Jaden Ivey as the headliner, Tobias Harris's expiring contract because he's the 4 right now in Detroit, and a couple draft picks, a couple unprotected first-round picks. And I think that is fair on both sides, but Danny Ainge has never been one to make a deal based on fairness. I think that if anything was holding it up, it would be the Ainges and their need to have a real high bar for what they get back from their outgoing player.
I think whether it's Detroit or wherever it's going to be, I think that is the main obstacle at this point. That and the fact that, since that big breakthrough season in Utah, it's been harder to judge Markkanen. There's, he's been hurt or he's been hurt in quotes.
Yep.
He has been not quite as productive or as efficient. And I don't think anybody should have any concerns. I think the second you put him in a competitive environment surrounded by real NBA talent, he's going to be right back to the player we saw at his peak. But I think the market sometimes can soften after a couple of lean years like that. So that's a possibility.
Can I throw 2 other teams out at you?
Oh, yeah.
So this team I didn't write in depth on because I just didn't think it was serious. The Charlotte Hornets.
Why do you want to do that to Lauri Markkanen? Do you hate Lauri Markkanen?
No.
I thought you liked him. You were trying to save him a minute ago. Now you're like...
I think that that would be really cool.
He'd love watching LaMelo Ball dribble 17 times before launching a 30-footer.
I would like to think, as a glass-half-full human being for once, that he would accentuate LaMelo, give LaMelo space. He would do wonders for Brandon Miller's development. Con Knippel would be a great fit with him, and they can all grow together as one. And I think that they have enough. It's also just they have enough draft picks and kind of interesting young players, and you can throw Miles Bridges' contract and Pat Connaughton's contract and get something done there. The other one more team, the Memphis Grizzlies. So you have Zach Edey, Brandon Clark, KCP, and 3 first-round picks via the Orlando Magic from the Desmond Bane trade.
Right.
Does that tickle your fancy, do you think, if you're Utah? Is that enough?
I don't know. How many injured, clunky 7-footers do I need?
I just like it because Tuomas Isalo, finish.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen, finish. Connection.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like that.
And I just think him and Jaren Jackson Jr. in a front court.
Sure.
With Ja. Ja's never really. I mean, that's 2 3-point shooting bigs that you can kind of have there, and it would help
intriguing.
Ja. Yeah.
It's intriguing.
Yeah.
I mean, even to be fair, the Charlotte one is actually intriguing too. I like the thought process there. All of my LaMelo jokes aside, and they need at some point soon, I think, because I get it. The Hornets, it's new ownership and it's new front office ish. And they're now kind of in a rebuild mode, but they are just as a franchise predating them, they've been perpetual rebuild, and at some point you have to pick a direction. So that's either find a way to supplement, complement, help LaMelo right now because you still believe in him as your franchise anchor, or if you don't, then it's time to move on from him and really start over and find a new North Star. And Markkanen, I think, is as good of a complementary star there as might be available in the near term. At what point do you decide it's time to turn the corner? The East is really fluid. I'm not saying they'd be a contender, but it's really fluid from top to bottom. It would be a good time to maybe exit the bottom. My first big question, and I'm just going to get this one out of the way early. I just have to. It will be the only time I mention this team or this name.
Oh, God.
LeBron. Where is LeBron and his head, and is he okay with the state of Lakerdom? Because we really haven't heard from him or Rich Paul or anyone else on his behalf. I think really since Rich Paul's statement on June 29th, the day that he opted in, when it was a lot of passive-aggressive kind of like LeBron wants to win a championship and he's happy to be here and everything else, but the Lakers need to remember that we have, he's got a timeline and it's shorter and this and that. Like all of this kind of like awkwardness about the fact that they are now on Luka's timeline, building around him, didn't make a lot of dramatic moves over the summer. With all due respect to DeAndre Ayton, there's just not a lot to move the needle. Are they really that much closer to contention? The best thing that happened to the Lakers in the last 5-6 months is Luka getting in great shape. Other than that, I don't see that there's a lot to look at and say, well, this is what's moved the ball forward for them or why LeBron should feel more confident. That said, Luka's one of the top 2-3 players in the world. I don't know that LeBron, if he's anywhere else, is going to be able to improve on that unless he's playing with Jokic or Shea. But I do want to. I think it's important. And like I say, I will dispense with this one quickly. People get fatigued of LeBron talk, but we have not heard from him. We don't know where his head is at. Is he happy with the state of things? Is he still frustrated with the state of things? Is he just waiting for other moves to be made? Can other moves be made? Dan Weike in The Athletic a week or so ago wrote about the fact that the Lakers might be a little more aggressive now that they're moving firmly into this Luka era and things are kind of more settled. They'd been a little reluctant to make big moves over the last couple of years. I don't know where things are there, but there certainly was a hell of a lot of discussion in July, and I think reasonably so about, is LeBron going to be happy here, and how do you resolve that if he's not? Because trading his contract is nearly impossible. They're not waiving him, they're not buying him out. I think it's kind of important that he's on board with whatever the agenda is there, now that it is a Luka-driven franchise.
I would say short term, my expectation for LeBron and the Los Angeles Lakers is for him to spend the season with the Los Angeles Lakers, be really good, and then after the season ends, whether they go on a deep playoff run or not, he will part ways with the Los Angeles Lakers in some capacity. I mean, that's how I
seems likely.
Yeah, I just don't see. A trade probably isn't likely in season for a variety of reasons. His son being on the team notwithstanding, just the difficulty of trading a $52 million contract in season with the CBA. And, the more I think about the Lakers, the more optimistic I am about them. I'm not sure I would call them a contender necessarily, but at the same time, any team that has Luka on it, I want to just be like, you can win the championship. That's how I felt with the Dallas Mavericks. So to be fair to the Lakers, that's like, I don't know. I mean, they don't have enough shooting. They have DeAndre Ayton as their starting center. But if Marcus Smart looks like Marcus Smart, if Jake LaRavia, who I really like, looks like he did, or like the sixth man of the year type of candidate, all around Swiss Army knife that he was, on the Memphis Grizzlies before he went to Sacramento. If everyone, all the supplementary pieces are able to kind of stay healthy and hit shots, like I think that this could be a very interesting team, and LeBron doesn't need to be the 40% usage rate, 35% usage rate player that he's been for so much of his career. And I think that Luka is magical, and I think whether he's in shape, whether he's not in shape, it's great that he's in shape. He looked wonderful at Eurobasket. He led the entire field in points, which is in 7 games. He scored more points than everybody else, and Lauri Markkanen, who we just talked about, played 9 games, finished second in total points. Luka's awesome, and I think he's one of, you mentioned Jokic, Shea, Giannis, whoever else you want to put in that category of, I can single-handedly take whatever is around me and just elevate it. Yeah. And I've seen him in a playoff series. I just always think about him in those playoff series against the favored Clippers when he was in his first or second or third season or whatever it was, his first taste of the playoffs. And he was unguardable. Like, the shots he was hitting, it was just incredible stuff. So Luka's... it's just doubting him is stupid. That's as reductive as I can be. Doubting Luka is stupid. And I don't mean to make your LeBron question about Luka, but I think LeBron's responsibilities will be so lessened, and his life will be as easy as it's ever been in the NBA.
And that's, you would think, what he should want at this stage of his career, right? Especially if you've spent several years, as he has, being a little perturbed about their inability to really, build a contender around him again since the 2020 team was dismantled. And now you've got one of the top players in the league. Like, this is exactly what you should want, and especially a guy who can do all the things that you do, but is 12 years younger, and has the ability to still do them at a really high level. LeBron still does too, by the way. But you should want somebody who can take some of that off of you when you're past 40 and when you don't know how many more seasons you've got left. I don't know how much of this is about the competitive version of him that just wants to win versus the part of him that feels like he's been shoved to the side in terms of the priority for the franchise. But I also don't know where else you go. There's nowhere else that's going to make you the center of the franchise again at this age. And I don't know where you go that puts you in a better position to win. Yes, there are better teams, but those teams are not in the market for LeBron right now. So I don't know how this resolves if he's unhappy. I also don't know exactly understand entirely why he would be unhappy. Yes, Luka should make his life better, his life easier on the court, and put him in a position to at least be really competitive and maybe have a chance at a deep playoff run. I think we all agree there's like 1 to 2 tiers at the top of the West, right? There's the Oklahoma tier, there's the Houston and Denver tier, and then there's everybody else. And it's Lakers and Clippers and maybe Wolves and Warriors and whoever else you want to throw in there.
Are we Oklahoma City in its own tier?
Yeah. They're the defending champs.
Disagree.
Wow.
Disagree.
Denver and Houston did enough to, this is a different discussion, but Denver and Houston did enough for you to say that it's one tier.
I think Denver should definitely be on Oklahoma City's tier.
I'm already ready to make Denver my preseason prediction to win the West, but it's based more on the but that's a different it's a different exercise, a different framework. What I'm saying is Oklahoma has by far the most talent, and they just won the championship.
Sure.
They're in their own tier because of that. Houston and Denver both did a lot of really great things this summer, which, if they all work out, give them the chance to be the ones to knock off Oklahoma. But that's different than saying they're in the same exact tier. I know, whatever. You could clown me for it. Listeners can clown me for it. I'm saying Denver might be my pick, but at the same time, I think Oklahoma's in their own tier. If you want to say that's a contradiction in terms, it's fine. It's a different framework for looking at it.
Denver, own tier, Oklahoma City. No, I'm just
Wow.
kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I think the Denver Nuggets are wonderful. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder are wonderful. And yeah. So are we done with getting into LeBron's head?
That's enough. I've had enough LeBron for at least 3 weeks.
Okay. My next question. Will the Miami Heat extend Tyler Hero?
Did not see that one coming.
So
remind me, what is the potentially on the table
on
here?
October 1st? So, we're right in the middle of training camp questions, October 1st. Yeah, sure, whatever. We're cheating a little bit here. He is eligible for a 3-year, $149.7 million extension. That is a lot. The deadline for Miami and him to come to terms on an extension is October 20th. And I feel like, their relationship is not over if they don't come to terms on an agreement. If nothing happens, he has this year under contract and he has next year under contract, I think $33 million in 27, and then he is an unrestricted free agent. But I just think that it's meaningful in some sense if the Miami Heat and him do not come to terms of some kind and extend their partnership, because he's 25 years old. He's coming off an all-star season. I was digging into some of the numbers and, watching some Tyler Hero clips earlier. And I think personally, I focused a little too much maybe on just the warts of his game and how in the playoffs defensively, he is just such a target and was just brutalized by the Cleveland Cavaliers in round 1, publicly and on the court. But he's one of the most efficient 3-level shot makers in the league. He was last season, at least. And whether or not that impacts winning to the degree that the Miami Heat want, I just think it's an interesting situation because if I'm Miami, I know that paying Tyler Hero, like this dude is not a max player, obviously. On his current contract, the value around the league and trade value has been nothing. I mean, they would have moved on from him probably already to get a star if he was that in demand. So I don't think that the Miami Heat are going to offer him what he wants. And in that sense, I feel like things could devolve from there potentially because a Bam, Hero, near max or max on the books long term, how are you going to get the actual difference maker to contend for championships, which is what the Miami Heat are all about as a franchise?
And I also think it's fair to wonder if you were a 37-win team last season, which they were, with Hero and Bam, if those are your two...
Hero making the All-Star team.
And Hero his best season, at least, by resume, and that got you to 37 wins? I mean, granted, listen, the Jimmy Butler thing was hanging over them. That's a part of all of this. You make a major trade, everything. Like, there's a lot else that goes into that. But I think before you throw down $150 million on an extension, I do think you have to ask yourself as a franchise, for all of the things that we like about him and all that he's done productively, efficiently, if all this is good enough to make us like hovering around 500 perhaps, is that the right investment? And I don't know. It feels like the Heat, they're on the verge of that like inflection point, right? Where is this still about Bam and Hero, or at least Bam and whatever you can you pull another Jimmy Butler rabbit out of the hat? You need something else. Like, as constructed, I don't think there's a lot to get excited about there. And if you lock yourself into Hero for years to come, then you make it that much harder to pivot or figure out what that next addition is. So that's a tough one. That's a good one.
Thank you.
All right. One more where it's I'm going to say the name. We will cover it as quickly as possible. We will just move on. But I have to.
Can I guess? Can I guess?
I mean, you already kind of know.
Oh, now I don't know. Because I was gonna guess Embiid.
No, I'm not. I'm not going there today.
Thank God.
Okay.
Go on.
I don't think I would worry for your mental health if I threw too many more Joel Embiid or Sixer-related takes at you in the offseason. I think I've overdone it as it is. Jonathan Kuminga, though.
Oh, great.
He's the star of the summer.
He is.
He's the darling of summer. Like, it's been the summer of Jonathan Kuminga, really. I mean, more than anybody else, more than Cam Thomas, more than Josh Giddey, more than like Kevin Durant trade was like eons ago. It's the summer of Kuminga. ESPN wrote like a 7,000-word story.
It's the summer of Kuminga.
Here's why I still think it's interesting, and that my question on the Kuminga issue is this: it's not so much about what are the contract terms, years and dollars and options, team option, player option. It's not that. That all matters too. My question about him is, what is his market value once this gets resolved? Because there's a 99% chance that once this gets resolved, he's still with the Warriors. It's not going to be a sign and trade. It doesn't appear to be. We know that he does not want to be there. We know that they don't necessarily want him there for fit reasons and all kinds of stuff. They've got a 2-year window here, basically, with Steph, Jimmy Butler, Draymond.
Right.
So it's all about now. The reason I think this is interesting, I don't care about the back and forth between these two parties about what his value is and what he wants. And all that matters too. But I ask the question only because his market value as a player under contract with them, who will be on the trade block the second he's eligible to be traded, has direct impact on whether or not the Warriors can actually make themselves a contender again. Or if not a contender, how close can they get? How much can they close the gap between themselves and the top tier and a half of Oklahoma, Houston, Denver? The goal is to get into that tier. And Jonathan Kuminga's trade value, maybe plus or minus something else, a Moses Moody or a pick or whatever, gets you what? And I don't know what the answer to that is, But the answer to that is fascinating. So the question to me is fascinating. What is Jonathan Kuminga's actual value around the league as a trade chip? Because what they can get for him will tell us potentially how good the Warriors can be for the next couple of seasons. He's their one big trade piece to bolster whatever is left of the Steph era.
So, like, giving your one big trade piece for DNPs during the playoffs, would that bolster the value or diminish the value, in your opinion?
Yeah, this is all complicated. I mean, at the time, they're just looking to win games. And then when they needed him out of desperation, he came in and he really produced. I think everybody across the league understands. Now, for bargaining purposes, negotiating purposes, if you're another team trying to get him, you're making the point that you just made, Pina. You're going to be, wait, oh, come on. You want how many picks for a guy that you give this many DMPs to that your own coach doesn't trust? But I think...
Or just pick your Steve Kerr press conference quote about Jonathan Kuminga, you know?
What matters at the end of the day, though, is what do other teams see in him in terms of his actual talent and his value to them, right? Jonathan Kuminga will be much more valuable as a Chicago Bull, for instance, than he would be as a Golden State Warrior.
Perfect Chicago Bull.
He's going to be a better fit on other teams. He's going to be a permanent starter on other teams. He's going to be more of a featured player on other teams.
Yeah.
And the warts that the Warriors see, or the fit issues that they might see, we can't put him out there with both Draymond and Jimmy because of spacing issues and shooting issues, does not exist perhaps on a different team. What his value is as a young player with incredible athleticism and pop and definite scoring abilities, rebounding abilities, he should be able to be a very good defender and a switchable defender, yet to be seen in actuality consistently. But he has the makeup to do all that. He's a much more valuable piece somewhere else. And so what are you willing to give up for him? Again, I'm not playing with trade machines. I don't know where we're sending him. But at some point in the next several months, first of all, in the next couple of weeks, the contract gets resolved. And then we immediately shift into where's he going and when. Because we have to wait whatever the requisite 90 days or whatever until he's eligible to be traded. But right up there with Lauri Markkanen in terms of guys to watch as potential midseason trades. That's all I got. We don't need to go too deep down that rabbit hole unless you've got any other burning hot Jonathan Kuminga takes.
I've kind of never been a huge fan of his game. I don't think that if I were a GM, I would be, banging down the doors to try to get him on my team. And this is, I don't want to say it's much about nothing because of the consequence of this being related to the end of Steph Curry's career, and Steph still has a lot to give. And I think that if the Warriors last year with Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy together, very good post All-Star break.
Dominant even.
And, if Steph is healthy and doesn't pull his hammy, do they go to the conference finals? And just how does it all work out? But I just don't think that this whole thing with Kuminga has been a wonderful experience for him or the Warriors, and trying to have a young piece who's growing with the aging stars in a way that he's able to complement them and at the same time be satisfied with his minutes and his shots and his touches. So I don't know, to be honest with you, I'm not that interested in what happens to Jonathan Kuminga because I don't think that he's an impact player at the end of the day, and I've already started to see him as a trade chip who may bring back Royce O'Neal. You know what I mean?
Listen, I talked to somebody yesterday who basically said, if I'm the Warriors, I would probably just take the Malik Monk and the protected pick from the Kings. I don't know that you're going to do much better than that. The Warriors clearly think that they can and should do much better than that. I don't know, and this is why I asked the question. I don't know that the league, broadly speaking, the consensus evaluation of him or what his value may be, I don't think it's not going to blow the Warriors away. Now, maybe Jonathan Kuminga ends up in a steady part of the rotation early in the season. They really showcase him, and he really shows out, and his value increases. But I don't think too many people around the league are going like, oh, yeah, future 10-time All-Star or 3-time All-Star even, or even 1-time All-Star. They're not. No one is grading him that way, and so it does put, I think, a little bit of a cap on what you can get. But again, if this was Jonathan Kuminga, restricted free agent of the Charlotte Hornets, I don't think anybody would care, and I wouldn't bring him up. But he is the key to something for the Warriors.
He also would have already been paid. If he was on the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, so it's just his circumstance is unfortunate. But I also will just say that what is kind of damning to me about him is just, I've referenced this before, but all of the statements that Steve Kerr has made. All of the, if you watch the Warriors games, you can see Steve Kerr and the coaching staff's body language whenever Jonathan Kuminga makes a mistake on defense or takes a shot that he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And playing with, and not benefiting from having Steph Curry on your team on the court with you and not looking like he makes the game so much easier for everyone, I would imagine. And if he doesn't make the game easier for you, what is going on with you? I don't know if that's fair or not, but that's just kind of how I perceive him thus.
All right. We're down 2 questions down each. What is your third question heading into training camp?
Okay, I'll go to the Dallas Mavericks. And I had starter sit for a lot of guys, but this is, I think, one of the more interesting ones. And it is Klay Thompson. And the question essentially translates to, will Cooper Flagg be Dallas's point guard?
Yeah.
Because if Klay Thompson starts, and you have Anthony Davis at the 4, you have Derek Lively at the 5. Essentially, if Klay Thompson starts, D'Angelo Russell is coming off the bench. And D'Angelo Russell was brought in to replace Kyrie Irving as their point guard, assuming that P.J. Washington is in your starting 5 as well. So if Klay starts, who's the point guard? It's Cooper Flagg. If Klay doesn't start, D'Angelo Russell starts, he's the point guard, and Cooper Flagg can play some other normal position that he would be as a rookie on a team that's supposed to be competitive in the eyes of many. So I think that's just really fascinating in terms of what we're going to see out of Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
And it's less about how Klay will handle coming off the bench, which he did not do. He did not handle that great, understandably, at the end of his tenure with the Golden State Warriors. So I don't know if there's a lot of meat here for you to chew on, but I think that Cooper Flagg is just a really interesting variable as we head into this season.
But it also underscores to me, in a weird way, the folly of the whole Luka for Anthony Davis thing, because what happened at the moment they did that, and Nico Harrison's explanation about we want to, we're trying to win now. We're not worried about the future. It's a win now. They get this just absolute gift from the basketball gods of winning the lottery, and they get Cooper Flagg, but you still have Anthony Davis sitting there at 32, 33, whatever. And the reason I bring that up is this. In a world where they don't have Anthony Davis and a veteran-laden lineup, and Kyrie Irving off to the side rehabbing, in a world where you're just the bad team that won the lottery, that got the guy that could be the future of your franchise, what do? You go, oh, I don't know if Cooper Flagg, is he a secondary ball handler? Is he a point forward? Is he a point guard? What is he? I don't know. Let's just use his rookie year to just let him do everything and see where we land, because we don't care about wins and losses. Except they have said themselves, they have laid the definition down for themselves. We want to win championships, and we want to do it with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving as our tent poles. Kyrie's out for the season. Anthony Davis is now, an anchor of a lineup that is mostly veteran, but with this really intriguing, super young player. I would rather just have the freedom to just experiment, put the ball in his hands a gazillion times, see what he is, see what he can do. We've got D'Angelo Russell as kind of our fail-safe. Here's a seasoned hand, for better or worse. I
wasn't drinking water when you said that.
I didn't mean that as a shot. It's just kind of the reality of his career. But they have made it very clear. They've put the mandate on themselves and the pressure on themselves to win now. And that's at odds, I think, with being able to just give Cooper Flagg all the latitude in the world to just experiment and see what he can do as a rookie. So, but I like the question. And I do think the Mavericks are fascinating for all of the above.
Do you think they'll be good?
No. I don't think they'll be terrible, but the West is so competitive, I don't think it's a guarantee. I don't think they're a top 6 team. So now you're in play-in range. So they're probably somewhere in 7 to 10 range. And there's a scenario where Anthony Davis misses 30 games and they don't make the play-in.
A very likely scenario.
Yeah. There's a scenario where they don't make the play-in. Like, as talented as Cooper Flagg is and as high on him as everybody around the league is, it's asking a lot of him to prop them up with Kyrie out, and if Anthony Davis then misses a bunch of time, as he usually does. Not a lot of playmaking on that roster otherwise.
No.
Aside from the for better or worse D'Angelo Russell. So, on that depressing note, how about this?
Let's do it.
Is it over for Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook?
I was waiting for this one.
Ben Simmons, 29 years old, unsigned. Russell Westbrook, 37 years old in November, so almost 37, unsigned. It is September 18th, and teams that were looking for guard help have passed on Russell Westbrook so far. Teams that were looking for just whatever, plug and play any position help have passed on Ben Simmons. I am told pretty definitively that whatever was put out there about Ben Simmons turning down the Knicks was absolutely untrue. They never offered him anything. So in Russell Westbrook's case, pretty productive season for the Nuggets. Some high highs and some bad lows at times in the playoffs in critical moments. But still a very productive and impactful player.
Very impactful.
Should I say for better or worse? We don't. But with Russ, he's 37. Like, that's a normal time to start to wonder if a guy's not signed. Well, maybe it's just the end. He's 37. In Ben Simmons' case, he's 29. Like, he should be in the middle of his prime. And, you know, it feels like it was not all that long ago that he was an all-NBA third-team player in Philly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but, like, here we are. Like, Westbrook's an incredibly decorated player. His resume, his Hall of Fame credentials are secure. MVP, 9-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA, 2-time scoring champ. He was on the 75th anniversary team. Like, if this is the end for him, Russ is fine. If this is the end for Ben Simmons, to go from first overall pick, generational, transcendent talent type who had all the hype in the world coming with him, to we're not even 10 years later. He was the number 1 pick in 2016. It's been less than 10 years. And here we are wondering if his career is over.
One of the weirdest careers since I've been alive, frankly. Guess how many points per game Ben Simmons averaged for the Los Angeles Clippers last year?
I'm going to say like 2.3.
Wow, 2.9.
Yeah.
I don't see – what is the rationale for signing Ben Simmons at this point?
So it's a great question. It's a fair question, and I guess the answer is that there isn't one because he's unsigned. I think if you were going to talk yourself into him, as the Clippers did on the back part of the season, well, at minimum, if he's not going to score, here's a guy who's 6'10", and if our center needs a blow, we can put him in. If our point guard needs a blow, we can put him in. He can play any position. He can guard any position. That was the outline of Ben Simmons once upon a time. Mm-hmm. And he can still, especially against bigs, he can still like hold up a guy and play some defense in the post. But like in terms of as a perimeter guy who can guard 1 through 5, which was at one time part of his calling card, one of the things that he was best at, like that guy's gone. Whether it's the back injuries, other issues with his body, or just whether or not his head is in the game, that version of Ben Simmons seems to be gone. And so, yeah, I do think that it's like that's the question. What is the allure of him now? He doesn't want to shoot. He doesn't want to score. He's a gifted passer, an incredibly high basketball IQ.
Loves to pass.
He would prefer to do that at all times. But there's too many deficiencies in the game now. And I just and if at one point you could throw him out there and guard anybody, plug him into any position, well, that guy's gone. So what is left? unless you really believe that you're the team whose medical staff and trainers are going to get him back to who he was in like 2018, I just don't see it. So I think this may be the end.
You make a great point about the defense. He was an incredible defender. Runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year in 21. I think he finished 4th for Defensive Player of the Year the year prior. 2-time first team, all-defensive team member. I just remember him guarding Luka, picking Luka up full court, bothering him to the point where didn't need any help. Couldn't be overpowered. The thing about Luka, of course, is he's just so powerful back to the basket. He'll back wings down, and he couldn't do that with Ben Simmons. Just incredibly physical, very versatile, obviously, and that guy is just was so touch and go on the defensive end. And once the defense goes, I mean, everyone can make fun of the overpassing, the unwillingness to get into the paint at all with the ball in his hands. And when he does get there, what's he going to do with it? I just don't know. I mean, I wrote this piece about, earlier this offseason, kind of highlighting guys like Simmons and Westbrook. And I think Malcolm Brogdon was mentioned in that article, just unsigned players of note. And I posited that Simmons could replace Tyrese Halliburton, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but kind of like, okay, if I'm the Indiana Pacers, I have this system and this personnel that's built around a pass-first point guard who wants to play fast, blah, 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 doesn't necessarily want to shoot but can. And at the same time, I don't really want to win games. In my opinion, the Pacers are not going to agree with that, but I have my draft pick. This is kind of a wash of a season and whatever. So we'll just sign Ben Simmons and we'll plug him in, and he can kind of be the poor man's Tyrese Halliburton, and that's how we'll spend this season. And obviously they did not go that route. And I can't think of another team where he makes sense at all, because he's someone who essentially needs the ball in his hands, isn't good with the ball in his hands. And, I mean, the Clippers had him as the backup 5 more than they had as a backup point guard. So, and then he was unplayable in the postseason. So, I think this is the end. I would be kind of surprised if a team took what is the upside? What is the upside to signing Ben Simmons? I don't know what it is.
Also, always a huge red flag when you're parting ways with your agent, or your agent is parting ways with you, as happened a couple weeks ago when you're still a free agent trying to find a job. Not a great sign for something to happen in September or August, whenever that happened. And in Russ's case, look, I think there's a lot that comes with Russ, always. He has, obviously, for all the things I stipulated earlier, and as great a career as he's had, since 2019, when Westbrook was traded from Oklahoma to Houston, he's been with 5 teams and has not lasted a full 2 seasons with any of them. Rockets for a year, Wizards for a year, Lakers for about a season and a half, or a little more than that, Clippers for about season plus, Denver for 1 year, and Utah waived him twice along the way as a facilitator in trades.
Was called a vampire on national television.
Whose quote was that?
That was anonymous, of course, from the Los Angeles Lakers.
Right. Yeah. And then there was some stuff in an ESPN.com story during the playoffs too, right?
Aaron Gordon, I believe.
Yeah, there was some stuff. He's a big presence. He's a big voice, and
little cantankerous, one might say.
Yeah, and can wear some people out. Also seems to be in that category of star who, is post-stardom, but can't think of himself in any other way and still carries himself.
Well, it
like
never
that
evolves his skill set to be that type of player.
It's tough. It may be over. By the way, just to tack on one more guy whose NBA career could be over.
Yeah.
The other number 1 pick of the Philadelphia 76ers 1 year after Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, still unsigned.
Oh, that's a sad one.
Yeah, very sad one.
Where was he in Sacramento?
He was in Sac. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But as of this recording, I believe still unsigned. Your fourth and final?
Fifth and final? Wow. Where does the time go? This could have probably been my number one, to be honest. Like, this is, I think,
Burying the lead again.
Hey,
this is why you have editors.
I'm gifting this to the listeners who stayed this long. This is my present to them, so you're welcome. Will the Memphis Grizzlies offer Ja Morant a contract extension?
That's a spicy one.
So, according to ESPN's Bobby Marks, the Grizzlies have up until October 21st to tack on 2 additional years, $61.7 million and $66.7 million, to the 3 years that are already left on his contract. The extension would put him in a Grizzlies uniform through the 2029-2030 season. And this is a similar extension that the Phoenix Suns gave to Devin Booker earlier this offseason, which was 2 years and $145 million, which was the largest average annual contract extension in NBA history. So this is, I mean, I don't think this isn't going to happen, right? Like, you'd be shocked.
I'd be shocked. Yeah. Too many injuries, too many other concerns. Generally
just unreliable for a variety of reasons.
And again, another player who hasn't quite evolved and plays a breakneck style that is only going to keep getting him hurt with his frame and the way he plays. And it's what's so exciting about him and what's so effective and fun about his game. But it's the thing that's going to make his, probably shorten his career because of the wear and tear.
So he has $126.5 million on his contract over the next 3 years. And we agree that this is probably not gonna happen.
I'd be a little surprised.
So at the same time, the Memphis Grizzlies have stood behind Ja Morant. They have treated him as a franchise player. They have shot down you on stage starting rumors. They don't want to trade him. They traded Desmond Bane this offseason.
Which caused a lot of people to wonder if it was going to be like a complete teardown, right? They're like, oh my God, is this the first step toward and no, nothing else happened.
And one might also wonder if the trade value that Ja Morant has on this current contract has prohibited Memphis from dealing him to get something of value in return where it makes sense to move on from him. But what I think is really interesting about this is if I'm Ja Morant, he's a NBA All-Star, has the shoe with Nike, signature shoe that is very popular, etc. And he's like, I'm the franchise player in Memphis. I am the Memphis Grizzlies. I want that extension. And you go, I want that extension. And they say no. Then what happens? That's when I get intrigued by how frayed what does that do to the relationship between player and franchise in a way that could lead to bad things down the road and a potential breakup.
And in this league, this is why teams sometimes make these kinds of leaps, right? Where you give out an extension you're not fully comfortable with as a franchise, but what are we supposed to do? This is a star-driven league. This guy's our star. He's incredibly popular. He's there's some blemishes and there's been some concerns and some injuries, but you don't want to alienate him. You don't want to piss him off. But you don't want to lock up your cap for the next 5-6 years either on a guy that you can't rely on and that you're not sold on should be the face of your franchise. And I'm not saying that they're not sold on that. I'm saying I'm not sold on their behalf. And anybody reasonably could have those concerns if you're the GM or the owner of the Memphis Grizzlies. By the way, games played per season for the last 4 years, 57, 61, 9, and 50. Not exactly a very encouraging trend line there as he moves into his, mid to late 20s. Still pre-prime, by the way. Should have
maybe. Maybe
technically, the age framework that we usually use in theory pre-prime. If 27 is when we move into prime years.
I mean, they had the Oklahoma City Thunder right where they want them, and then Lou Dort undercut Ja Morant. We never know. We want to know what could have happened in that first round series if he didn't get hurt.
We'll never know. That's a great question.
Only a 2-time All-Star, which is kind of interesting, and he's only made one All-NBA team. And as you know, when we were both at Sports Illustrated, I went to Memphis, wrote this big feature about him, and I actually reread it the other day because we moved, and so I'd see the magazine. And I was like, oh, I wrote this, so I reread it, and it's just kind of I'm proud of that article, whatever, but it is not aged well at all.
You think my Zion Williamson cover story for SI has aged well? We're in neck and neck competition right there. As
man.
Those two are in neck and neck competition as draft classmates who have been too often absent and have so far been disappointing.
Real tough. And honestly, if I look at the Memphis Grizzlies, and I don't really know. I don't know if this even matters that much, but just like if we're labeling people as franchise players, the way that they have kind of moved heaven and earth to give Jaren Jackson Jr. that contract this offseason, and just, I guess, who he is as I don't want to, whatever. He's a model citizen, not in trouble ever, etc. Very good, ascending young talent. I think he might be the franchise player, and he might be someone who it makes more sense to build around in the what pieces make sense around Jaren Jackson Jr. versus what pieces make sense around Ja Morant. I don't know if I'm necessarily at that point, but that is a question that I think the Memphis Grizzlies should be already potentially asking themselves.
I understand it on a basketball level. I understand it on even almost like a spiritual level of like, who do you trust to build around kind of thing. But Ja Morant's the guy who puts butts in seats and excites the fan base and drives everything, right? Jaren Jackson Jr. is a really great player to have, but he's not driving the whole thing. So I don't know.
Where is this? Where are we driving to?
I had a couple of thoughts there. I'm just not even going to do it. Moving on.
All right. So I gave you my 5. What's your?
Your 4? I've got 3 options for you.
Wow.
I have a superstar related option. I've got a can this guy be a number 1 option, and I've got a league more broad option. Which of those 3 would you like to hear?
Number 1. Can this guy be a number 1?
And maybe as you suspected or intuited.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, it's your team.
Oh, we're going there? Okay, interesting.
How good will Jaylen Brown
answer's
be as
no.
a number 1? The way I wrote it down was actually how good will Jaylen Brown be as a number 1. Not can he be a number 1 at the same level of Jason Tatum or anybody else you want to put on that list of established number 1s, but he's going to be their number 1 option. How good will he be? And is it enough to keep the Celtics in the playoff hunt? And the reason I wonder about it mostly is, as we know, for years there was that burbling either tension or perceived tension of, are they going to keep them together? Should they keep them together? And these rumblings every so often, usually granted from other teams, saying Jaylen Brown would like to be the number 1 somewhere. And we're not sure if these guys are going to stay together, not because they don't like each other or can't play together or can't share it was none of that. It was more like, just as Kyrie at one point decided he wanted out from under LeBron's shadow, could Jaylen Brown see himself in a way where that was the important thing? And now we're going to see the test case for what it looks like with Jaylen Brown as a number 1 option and as a better version of him. Those rumblings were from 3 years ago, and this is a more well-rounded, matured version of him. Mm-hmm. I'm always fascinated when you've got a team that has the luxury of 2 or 3 stars, and you think, man, what could that guy do on his own? Well, all right, we're going to get to find out now, and it will determine where the Celtics fall. Listen, they may rather not be in the hunt. They may rather be playing for draft position.
They will.
But it's a fascinating thing to look at because, though we've already gone through the depressing on behalf of Celtics fans anyway, of like how steep the drop off is after the first 3-4 players.
Yeah,
maybe 3. Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and
the big 3.
Yeah. there's at least some good talent right there. Like, okay, they're going to be able to score, I think, and they'll be able to defend, I think. I just don't know how good at either level, and I don't know if there's any bench at all to speak of. But I am fascinated to see Jaylen Brown as a number one. So there you go.
Yeah, I think Jaylen Brown's really good. One of the better two-way players in the league the last few seasons. Obviously had a tremendous finals run and was critical to that and was excellent in the finals and was someone who hit a lot of big shots on a huge stage, and he has as much playoff experience as anyone really in the NBA, frankly, since he's entered it. I think being the primary option, lead ball handler, high usage playmaker on a very good team is something that only a select few can say that they can handle. And Jaylen Brown's game does not necessarily translate to that responsibility set. I think that, he, as someone who will suddenly, from the opening tip, be defended by the opposing team's best defender, the opposing team's scouting report will revolve around either taking the ball out of his hands with pressure, blitzing and pick and rolls, not worrying about what is around him necessarily, and his ability to respond to that, get off the ball every single time that happens, not be frustrated, not force shots, which is kind of, his whole role on the team will shift every minute he's on the court. And so I don't think he's ever been someone who has been want to make life easier for teammates, and that's not like a criticism just because he can get any shot he wants. He's so athletic. His in-between game is spectacular, but I think that the degree of difficulty on the shots is only going to go up, and he wasn't even particularly that efficient when he had Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis and Derek White and Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
So I think that typically when all this happens and attention from the opposing team goes up, efficiency will probably go down. And the player who was amazing in, I think it was Game 5 against the Knicks, Celtics win at home, and he has one of the better games of his entire career. Game 6, he fouls out, and it's a total disaster, and the Celtics lose in a blowout effort. I think that you're going to get not necessarily ride a roller coaster like that with him this season, but I think having the in-between of those two extremes is not a first option on a very good basketball team. It's just not who he is. So, and also, I'll just say lastly, the pieces around him are not ideal. This is not a good basketball team. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the unfortunate thing, indeed the unfair thing about my question, is that it's not even going to be the right or fair evaluation of him. It just isn't. Porzingis and Drew Holiday are gone, in addition to Tatum being gone. If it were the exact same team, but you had whatever replacement for Tatum's salary slot, and Porzingis and Drew Holiday were still there, then it's like, okay, here's Jaylen Brown with the Celtics team that was a Tatum-centric team, and now it's a Brown-centric team, and we don't even have apples-to-apples comparison, right? And in fact, it's a vastly degraded roster at this point compared to where they've been the last couple of years. So in a lot of ways, it's not a fair assessment, but it's still a fascinating exercise and an ongoing assessment for the season. So I thought that was interesting to at least toy with. Among the options you didn't choose, Pina, again, we don't have to get into it. I'll just list these off. Will the Bucks be good enough to calm the waters around Giannis?
Jeez Louise.
It's going to happen.
You're going to make me comment on the Bucks?
I'm not.
I hate mail
I've already,
left and right.
I've already stipulated you do not have to say anything. Teams are already circling as they always do. We've already, the Warriors and whoever else are all, Lakers. Everybody's saving cap room for 2027 in case he's available, and in case a superstar ever changes teams via free agency ever again. But everybody thought there was going to be Giannis trade talks this summer. Didn't happen. Cool, great. These things are always day to day. If they come out of the gate slow, if they're stumbling through November and December, it's going to spark it all. We know it will. So my question was, will they be good enough to calm the waters and not have that happen? Then there's the how frustrated are fans going to get the first couple of weeks of the NBA season as they're trying to figure out where the hell to watch games.
I'm already frustrated.
This is I'm going into now my 29th season covering this league, and it is the first time in all of that time that the league sent us an email when the schedule came out saying, here's a guide to which channels or services on which days, please help us publicize this. And I'm not knocking the NBA for doing that. I appreciate them doing that, and I appreciate that I now have the graphic card that I can look at any time because I don't know either. But for the record, Monday on Peacock, Tuesdays on NBC or Peacock, Wednesdays on ESPN, Fridays on Prime Video. That's Amazon Prime, by the way. Thursday, also Prime Video. Friday Prime Video. But additional weekly national games starting mid-season, Thursday Prime Video, Saturday ABC or ESPN or Prime Video, and Sunday ABC or ESPN or NBC. So now that we've got that settled, I think we're all good. We're good to go, right? We've all got it down.
My brain is just leaking out of my ear right now, unfortunately.
The guide to which channels the NBA will be on this coming season is now almost as long as the CBA. Mm-hmm. It's very close now. I do think there's going to be some frustration and some grumbling. Forget the cost part of it, which is significant, but just the mere trying to remember what channel I'm supposed to put on.
Where can I get the highlights? That's what I want to know.
You know where to find the highlights.
Where are the highlights?
On House of Highlights, apparently. All right, before we go, and by the way, a programming note for those of you who are Real Ones listeners, we will be back with the Real Ones, I believe 1 week from today. Raja, Belle, and I will be on. Logan Murdoch taking a little time off, just right until around opening night. There's your programming note. Before we wrap this one up, I do have one bonus question. And it is a question that I would expect will be asked on Media Day for this particular team or shortly thereafter. And I am very curious about the answer to this one. Are the Oklahoma City Thunder going to visit the White House? No team visited the White House during the first Trump administration. That was the Warriors in 2017 and 18, the Raptors in 2019. Lakers in 2020, but there was COVID. But there was no NBA team visited the White House from 16 through 20. That tradition did resume during the administration that followed. I am very curious to know how the NBA and NBA teams will handle this now. You do not have to answer that. We do not have to speculate. And I don't think we should. I'm just curious how that's going to play out. It is a thing. People may cringe at me even voicing it today. I'm sure the Thunder are not happy with me bringing it up right now, but it's going to come up. And we should hear that answer, I would think, before too long once teams are back in action with training camp.
At the risk of making a foolish prediction, I would say that maybe I don't think there's a unified I know that's only 15 players and coaching staff and all that. I don't think that these things are unified anymore, and so it wouldn't surprise me if a select few players showed up and staff, and some decided to hold out and not go, or I don't know.
They also have to be invited, and maybe the invitation won't be extended. Has not been this president's favorite league historically. So that's as far down that rabbit hole we need to go.
I gave the listeners who stuck around a gift, and you give them this. Like, no one wants to hear this.
I left it for the end for a reason. If anybody stuck around this long, they're just very interested in everything we have to say, including down potentially dark rabbit holes.
Did we miss anything? Is there any other cool training camp story that will Reed Shepherd be the backup point guard for the Houston Rockets? I mean,
we got plenty of time for the Reed Shepherd role definition time.
Okay.
Like that's a midst of training camp story.
Beautiful.
We'll get back to it.
Great.
All right, Pina. This has been fun.
It's been great.
Thank you. Good luck with the rest of the boxing, unboxing, wall hangings, everything else, childcare along the way. Welcome to the neighborhood-ish.
Thank you, sir.
I'll see you at a bar on Court Street.
Beautiful.
Thank you all for joining us. And we'll be back next week with The Real Ones.